already seen Medivh used very often by ADRD. Is there some kind of plan here for Trick Esports to deal with it? Because after the performance yesterday or Friday, I just don't see a reason why you ever let the hero slip through on draft. So Expert does pick Dragonshire. The first ban will go to Trick Esports.
All right, so let's see where they're going to go. Tassadar could definitely be a thing. We've seen that being a banned out a lot. Team Tricked, what have they been banning out constantly? We saw a Falstads to Hackers, but they would like to Hacker, I think, here. So maybe a Falstad ban?
Yeah, I think they ban another hero. They don't go for the Tassadar because they have first pick, so they could take it away.
True.
If Expert ever has first pick, you ban it no matter what. You know Expert is interested in picking up that Tassadar. So Trick Esports hovering what they potentially would like to go to. I think I agree with you. A Falstad or a Dahaka ban would make sense here. Get rid of that top lane. We've seen Expert already run it before in the past.
I would... yeah. So the focus on global is cool. When we saw them using Trick Esports using Dahaka on this map yesterday, it felt better for them because they didn't have to rely on just a solo warrior that was something like a Tyrael, which didn't really feel like it had much punch behind it compared to where they prior were. So ETC gets banned out and Tastar on the other side. So a target towards Bad Benny there from Trick Esports because his ETC that we saw in his first series was very, very strong.
Yeah, that it was. It was almost a linchpin of why they ran so well. We had ADRD on Medivh. ETC would get engages with a portal, fall up the power side of the Mosh Pit. We saw them dive into a death zone on Towers of Doom. So taking out ETC makes a lot of sense there. They feel like they take away that full frontal power that Team Expert has shown so much already.
So the Dahaka we were correct on. If this isn't Ragnaros and something from Team Expert, I would be kind of surprised. They showed on Blade specifically very, very good Ragnaros play, and we've seen how powerful it can be in the European scene so far. Don't you agree?
Yeah, something to note as well is later on in the draft, Zul could become a thing as well. We've seen Zul played by this. Blade has ran Zul before. It's a hero that gives you the wave clear, and you're starting to pick him up a lot more here on Dragonshire. So a lot of things to think about. Ragnaros pickup here is a shoe-in for me, and then the second pick, probably move into I don't know about a warrior, actually. They could go to eSport, they could go double warrior, so maybe Expert here now might want to get the warrior that they want to have for their foundation.
And Rehgar and Muradin will be the first choices. Interesting. I was going to theorize that Rehgar will be one of the pickups in that too. Maybe a Ragnaros on Rehgar. However, wasn't expecting Muradin, probably because the ETC was choked out a little bit. They don't necessarily want Bad Benny to have to fall back to something that is a little bit more uncomfortable than the top two warriors, top three.
Yeah, ETC gets him a lot of tools, and Muradin's the next best step in terms of just being able to have a solo warrior with the engages that you want. I am surprised Ragnaros didn't get picked up, though. Trick Esports, I feel like you have the opportunity to take it now. This is a hero that has given you so many combinations. You have the top lane locked down. Q build is absolutely obliterating when you get into these engagements. And then from there, we're going to go to the ban phase, and I want to know if Medivh's going to get through that phase at all.
They got to play Ragnaros once yesterday, did Trick Esports, when it came to playing against Fnatic, and that was on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Can still be strong here.
Yeah, and that was the Chromie game. That was the one where you see Ragnaros' weakness really come to fruition. The whole not being able to deal with poke constantly coming your way. And the entire team just kind of melted. And also, you're playing against Fnatic. Ragnaros still left out here. So Malfurion, Tychus, Dahaka is going to be our top three.
All right, so Tychus being mixed in. Like to see that in Europe. It's always very prevalent, even in North America as well. You see it a lot. Trick Esports going for that. Now, that means that Nick, on the other side, doesn't have access to one of his very favorite heroes, or currently best played heroes. So they're going to have to look to pick up something for Nick later on that isn't Tychus, obviously.
All right, Expert pondering what they want to get rid of. We know that we have Dahaka. We know that there is a possibility of a second warrior. Is there anything that's kind of frightening for Expert? I look at Expert's composition right now, and they can kind of handle anything that comes their way because their third and fourth hasn't been shown off here yet. So no warriors would be the call here. I wouldn't ban anyone. They actually go for Zeratul on the ban.
Yeah, banning out Eternal here, making sure that he's not going to cause them problems with that. Medivh as the second ban out. All right, so come on, Ragnaros. Give us a Ragnaros. I would love to see. I'm going to eat my words at some point, because I tweeted out last night, how is Ragnaros getting so far in these drafts in
North America, right? And now EU comes in the next day and shows us what's up. I think it makes sense what Trick Esports got just with Muradin on the other side. You want to make sure you secure that Tychus, and then you don't want your next support to be banned out, because after Malfurion, what do you go for? Brightwing? Suddenly you don't do well against Bloodlust Engage unless you go for Emerald Wind. You have to go Blink Heal if you go for Double Warrior. So taking Malfurion and Tychus worked out for them. and it makes sense with that Muradin pick from Team Expert. Now, with this being the 3rd and 4th here, you gotta see some kind of strong laner at least, even if you don't go for Ragnaros, just to make sure that they have that lane on lock.
Yeah, and let's see where else. The one thing that I'm curious about what Team Expert is going to do is what ADRD is going to end up playing, because right now, Tassadar is banned, which is usually a go-to of his. Medivh is banned, which is usually a go-to of his. Other things that you can see ADRD on is something like an Abathur. He can actually play the Ragnaros as well sometimes, and Ragnaros Jaina will be the pickup. So there's good synergy between those two.
Yeah, he played Ragnaros on Friday and actually did a very strong job against Diamond Skin. I believe it was on Towers of Doom, if I remember correctly. No, wait, that was the Medivh. So he did play Ragnaros, and we'll see how he will pull it off here, holding that top lane down. Jaina gives that burst capability. I would love to maybe see an auto attacker here, just because I feel like they don't have really a way of burning one down if Jaina doesn't straight up hit our combos. But there's Dahaka, Malfurion, and Tychus. Tyrael makes sense here as an automatic counter against Jaina, just getting Sanctification.
Yeah.
And we do know that Trick eSport likes to run the double warrior compositions, so I feel like Tyrael would be the go-to over the two that Alex the Prodigy usually runs. However, we did see him run Dahaka the other day too.
Look at that, 80% win rate Ragnaros in 10 games. Good job, my friend. Good job, my boy. Good job, that lad. Well done. And on the other side now for Tricked Esports, as you were saying, you know, a Tyrael could be cool. Let me think what else.
They go for a Nubrax, a straight spell shield counter. This is a scenario that we saw Dignitas in the other day, where they had a lot of spell power and didn't go for an auto attacker, and a Nubrax was just completely safe in fights. Something to also know is Trick eSport now has the 3 warrior. This is becoming a thing that we see more often, both in North America and in Europe. Artanis gets amazing value if he's able to switch off the Rhaegar, the Jaina, or the Ragnaros. He has 3 juicy targets to hit.
That's a front line, and that's a front line that has power. Like, there's damage from Artanis. There's even a little bit of damage here and there from an Uberak when you're not actually dealing with him. So this is a cool little lineup from Tricked Esports that, for Team Expert, ideally they would have loved to have had Tychus for, but you can't have it. We've got it, we're tricked you. Yeah, never mind. So, for now, Team Expert, rounding things off.
Yeah, it's hard to fill out that 5th slot. You either get a non-attacker so you can deal with the Nubrack, or you have to go for something a little bit more wave clear based, and they actually go for Zul. The problem is I am fearful if Zul overextends at all, a Nubrack and Artanis can jump on that character and burn him relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this will shape out. It's going to come down to Expert really holding the early game and how they do well in the top lane, and how Zul is handled by Tricked Esports throughout the entire match.
I mean, from game to game, you're right on the money with this. The Zul is something that they did use on Dragonshire in their first series of the season, or of the Phase 1, of course. So they are versed with it. They're well versed with it, and let's see how it's going to pan out against 3 warriors at the front. I'm not sure. I'm not sure just yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. With that 5th slot, you either go more damage, or you get more durable, or you go for the wave clear. And the wave clear is because you have a Nubrack and Artanis. And Dahaka. Dahaka's going to be in the top lane, and he's going to be doing relatively well when it comes to wave clear. But a Nubrack and Artanis aren't the best at dealing with waves that are pushing away.
Right.
Even Tychus to a degree. You have to use a grenade, which at that point feels kind of awkward. So you just push them in all day and hope you get an early lead, and then with that advantage, going into level 10, you get into team fights and kind of burn them out.
Yeah.
If we do have Trick eSport come into this match and they handle it relatively well getting to level 10, I feel like they're actually in a really good scenario here to have great team fight going into the mid game.
It feels like Zul is the secret weapon of Europe on this map.
Yeah.
We saw Fnatic run it yesterday. We saw Expert running it in the previous game where they actually did win with it, going up against Diamond Skin. And going up against 3 warriors, Scythe, if it's able in those team fights to actually connect with a lot of those members, that's going to take a lot of the power away from those warriors because it does slow their attacks.
Yeah.
So that could be very, very powerful here.
Especially Artanis, who's trying to get that trait going with getting those auto attacks. But I want to know what you at home think. Tweet at us at Heroes Esports using the hashtag HGC. We'll read them later. Do you think Zul getting picked up as a 5th pick is a lot of sense here? Do you want to see more Artanis God swaps? We love to hear what you think here. And just to pop out a couple of thoughts here, a Nubrack Cocoon, or do we go Locust Swarm?
I think we're going to have Locust Swarm.
Yeah, need the DPS and the sustain.
The Cocoon is something that you do see from time to time when, I'm trying to think of an example and I can't quite think one off the top of my head, but something when a cooldown is specifically popped to actually try and deal with that. You saw it against Malfurion in Tranquility in the past and things. Yeah, but not for this one.
All right, guys, the game is ready to go. Game 1, Tricked eSports taking on Team Expert. Here we move into Dragonshire.
All right, Trixler. Day 3 of week 1 here in HGC Europe. And to the left-hand side, we do have our blue team here as they get going, with Bad Benny going to be playing Muradin, Blade playing Zool. We will have, coming up, Curson on Rhaegar to round things out. Nick will be on Jaina, and finally, ADRD will be on that Ragnaros.
Both teams here fighting for community sentiment. Who will be the 4th best in Europe to take on the top 3, the Pin Ultimates? Here's Crosby, Nabe. We also have Alex Aproji, Rimmerballer as well, all popping up, and that is going to be our team here in the red. Do not forget about Eternal as well. Eternal is the guy that makes the plays for this team.
That's why we saw the Zeratul ban in that second phase there from Team Expert. They know that giving Eternal something like that can be very scary. Tannis already going to start things off with Amateur Opponent, so he will be able to chew through those little mercenary camps later on. Provide a lot of power, I think, specifically to the bottom lane. You get those Giants nice and early on the timer every single time here, and then we could see that work really well for Tricked eSport.
Okay, and something to note, Team Expert is actually 1-0, but they can go 2-0 here. Let's find out their keys to victory. Oh, hold that thought there as Eternal goes in for a swap. Alex Aproji here is here well, but Bad Benny and Nick were on the flank waiting. They show up, go for the engage. Bad Benny with the body block and the dwarf toss, and that will be a takedown on Dahaka.
That was quite a deep attempt at a gank there, you can see, and especially when the lanes are quite close to one another here on this map, and you're trying to gank somebody like a Ragnaros that does have the sustain from Q with 2 members. He has more sustain the more people get hit. So, bit ambitious there for Tricked eSports, I feel.
A bit ambitious indeed, and now Expert holding that top lane. ADRD in a great spot, automatically gets the first shrine. The entire team here for Tricked eSports is needing to set up in the bottom lane to grab the shrine and prevent any dragon from going off. Sadly, all 4 members did rotate Muradin, Jaina, Rhaegar, and Zul to the middle lane, so there isn't going to be an early dragon, but hey, let's be real, it's not a immediate thing you need to grab.
Nah, not too much of a threat, really. They're just going to kind of jostle for position down here as well. Blade getting attacked for a moment. Good roots on towards him, though. He's taken Backlash, not Shade, because Backlash is just the go-to at the moment. And it looks like it's going to be a turnaround again here. Team Expert get themselves a 2nd kill off the back of a Tricked gank, and a 3rd kill. It is not going well for Tricked eSport.
This is the strength of Zul rotations. If you start getting minions pushed into the middle lane, the bottom lane, you're forced to respond to it. And suddenly, if you don't automatically assume that they're coming for you on a gank and you're slightly overextended, you will be picked off, especially with Jaina being there with the slows. You have Muradin with the Stormbolt, and if Zul gets near you, Bone Prison. They have insane CC for isolation and pick-off potential.
Doesn't bode well for Tricked eSports just yet, is what I'm kind of looking at here. 3 warriors trying to rotate for kills. Yeah, they might have a little bit of control and stuff like that, but they don't quite have the burst potential to make it happen. So unless there is kind of a lazy attitude to reacting to it from Team Expert, I don't know if those rotations are going to work.
It's going to be hard, and here's the thing that's going to be even harder for Artanis in particular. They picked up Amateur Opponent, which means they want to peel them off eventually to deal with those Giants. You do 150% extra damage to mercenary camps, but if there's constant pushing into your waves and there's lots of rotations happening where your teammates can be picked off, Artanis can't really leave there to go pick up Giants. And in fact, with Zul and them being available, and they know that Artanis has Amateur Opponent, that opens up the opportunity for Expert to go for an invade at any point in the game.
And that's an easy Dragon Knight pickup here for Team Expert. Just look for towers, and as we've said time and time again on this map, where else are Team Expert going to apply pressure, or are they going to complement this Dragon Knight? It seemed like 2 of their members wanted to, and those were the big damage dealers. Now they'll rotate down to mid here. Look for some damage there. They're just after towers. The more towers you can get with this first Dragon Knight, the quicker it'll push you to 10.
That is very true. One of the things that they were doing really well there is they're actually taking Blade, who is on Zul, moving him around, and whenever they have Jaina going for a burst on a wave, he's just there to get the trait proc, a few more minions to drain a little bit more ammo. They're using Blade and his Zul play to as much of an advantage as they can. ADRD in trouble. Blade shows up, goes for the body block, now going to be using the Bone Prison on Artanis. Nice Blade dash away, by the way, to reposition himself. I love Artanis players that know that maneuver.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You know you're not going to dash on back. You're going to get locked down by that bone prison. Interestingly enough, with that level 4 being jailers, it means just a few extra skeletons when that bone prison actually goes up. So just a little bit of extra damage. Maybe the potential to actually block something here or there, maybe a skill shot or so. But for now, that is going to be the hard camp going over towards Team Expert. And they will look to apply pressure up there with no shrines currently available just yet.
A full level 8 to level 7, and this is where the invade becomes very strong for Team Expert. They've already got the turrets killed off because they got their dragon. And you see them actually floating around the minimap between the middle of these bushes here. And every time, Bad Bunny's doing a great job of checking the giants. They are keeping all their tabs on Artanis. Now, interesting to note that level 7 talent that does create 2 skeletons when a bone prison comes out is actually kind of a mispick against Artanis. He will blade dash away, and then he can actually attack those minions to get his crate pocked up. So he has to be careful not to use the bone prison too much on him if he ever gets low on HP.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up there. So ideally, you'd be looking to bone prison other members of the opponent's team,
Very
right?
correct. Yeah. You want to be able to hit the Malfurion there, or maybe even the Tyke. It's just enough to get a little bit of added DPS in there, but also so they'll keep pushing the wave too if you ever do get a kill.
Yeah. All right, well, Team Expert here. Why do I keep almost calling them Experience? I hate that. Expert going to move on down, still allowing Zul to really heavily push these waves and stealing this camp. I love this. They're almost level 10. Very difficult for Tricked eSport to actually go down there and try and rival that, or even know it was happening for the moment. And from there, an easy pick.
Man, Expert, you just look at him and I think crisp. They just understand what they want, what their objectives are, and they get the isolations, they finish off their objective, and they pull back and go back to taking the battleground. I love it. They did this against Diamond Skin, and they're doing it now against Tricked eSport. I really feel like this team has a composure to just level up consistently and get into that top 3 we've been talking about.
Yeah, the game flows. This is why at the beginning of this Phase 1, they are my pick to maybe breach into that top 3 as you're mentioning. My most exciting stipulation of Phase 1 is going to be when these guys play against Team Dignitas.
Yeah.
That game could potentially decide who could take that 3rd spot moving down the line. That is to say, Team Expert even wins this one. Who knows just yet? Because Tricked eSports, they've had a slow start, but there's by no means any reason they can't hold their own here against Expert.
Yeah, this is where they get level 10. They spike up slightly here. A couple of options for our teams. They're going to be picking their heroics. I'm looking over on Tricked. What are they going for? Artanis in particular. Suppression Pulse is usually the go-to, but there's no major auto attackers except for Muradin here, who has a Skullcracker that you kind of want to negate. But Laser could be an absolute option for Jaina or even Ragnaros. In fact, they do go Laser here. They pick it on up. So now, Eternal charging forward. He does have the swap combo available. Will he go for it? The silence, though, from Nappy will prevent Muradin from diving in. Nice Ancestor healing on Nick in the back line. Purifier Beam on Jaina, burning her down to half HP. And Ragnaros is not even here. He cleared the top lane, and he moves to the middle lane, setting up to make sure he can slow down the rotation of Tricked eSport.
The Purifier Beam is going to be great to try and deny the Jaina combos. Always throw it on her. When she throws down Ring of Frost, she doesn't have a great opportunity to throw down Cone of Cold and Blizzard unless she is paying absolute minute detail to her movements. Otherwise, she's going to be taking big damage. So
It's actually really good, too, because she went for machine gun build, and every time you use that Q, there is a slight animation wind-up that actually stops you for a second, so the laser will catch up to you. It is something to be fearful of. And we didn't actually get a Bloodlust from Rhaegar, which means she won't get any major movement speed to walk away from that. So positioning will be important for Jaina, and Eternal is liking that pick just to make sure that Jaina is never in the scenario she wants to be. Good point by Polaris there.
And for the most part, I mean, there's not a huge focus on auto attacks from Team Expert either. So would the blind really do that much? That's the cool thing about Heroes of the Storm. At level 10, you can tailor, I mean, at every talent level, you can tailor your build there and then to what your opponent has available to you. You can make changes. Don't necessarily stick to the meta. Experiment. Learn the talents in and out, know what they're going to counter well, and then apply them to the game.
One of my favorite things about Heroes of the Storm is that niche picks can be a thing. All right, so we're moving into, again, the Dragonshire phase. We have both teams grabbing mercenary camps in the top left. We have Team Expert keeping up their pressure. Now, Tricked eSports is moving towards level 13, level 16. This is where Artanis starts to level up. Benurav himself also gets much more valuable at that point, too. He could also pick Blood for Blood at 16 for Bad Benny, help burn him down quickly with Tychus, and suddenly they have a front line that's not available anymore for Expert. So things to think about as we continue to level up through this game.
It's going to be a little bit of a tussle up towards the top here. Alex the Pro G trying to get away. Sulfura Smash. Oh, it doesn't hit. A great little escape there from Alex the Pro G with Dahaka. If that Sulfura Smash had hit, maybe they could have locked him down with extra members, but Purifier Beam to push him away. And Remember Ballers should have control of them never taking this Dragon Knight.
A lot of heroics being used there. We have Purifier Beam. We also had Dahaka's Adaptation. Bad Benny looks hungry here, wanting to get on Remember Baller, but Expert gets the second Dragon of the game here at 9 minutes and 20 seconds.
Their rotations are just faster. And as you pointed out before, they are crisper here from Team Expert. Yes, they had 13, so it was difficult for Trick to actually fight, but Expert is moving as a coordinated team and just taking structure after structure.
That seems to be the trouble with Triple Warrior compositions, always being in the correct position. You're always lagging behind trying to clear a wave or set up for a flank, but then suddenly you're getting pushed in another lane, so someone has to go deal with that. And suddenly, Expert has brought all 5 members, taking a Dragon, and you're like, well, it's happened again.
Yeah, and it's not going to let up anytime soon, I don't think. Trick eSport has to find a... I feel like an extremely hard engage once they get level 13 at some point. They have 3 warriors. They are sustainable at the front, and they want to dive the back and kill off some of those damage dealers. That's the way Trick eSport is going to try and find some success. If they take a fight with 50% effort, 60% effort, no, you need to go in with this comp.
Yeah, there's an all-in scenario that eventually has to happen. You get a Swamp or you get a Dahaka Flake. That's the only thing you're going to do. And Nubak's never going to dive in unless he knows he has a dive secured. Yeah. And he can get on the back line with Jaina and Ragnaros. So Arctanus and Dahaka are the 2 that we'll be watching the entire time, which is Eternal and, of course, Alex the Pro G. So we'll keep an eye on them. At the same time, Expert just needs to keep doing what they're doing. Clear waves, keep pressure up, kill forts, set up for the next Dragon Shrine. And they're doing that. We already have Zul in the top lane. We have Bad Benny constantly lagging slightly behind him so he can help him if he needs assistance, or they can scout out a Merc camp.
And to the point you were making before, like, Anubarak is one of the very best to just get to the back against Jaina, put pressure on her, deny her from getting combos, and then from that point on, the damage is a little bit slower from the rest of them. It's not quite as bursty, I suppose, unless Sulfura Smash hits 3 in the face. Haha, Naventic, well played. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it just comes down to the fight being opened up. So Anubarak has that opportunity to get in the back because he is the best at getting back there if the opposing team can't deal with it. 15-13, we're about to have Expert hit another talent tier above their opponents as they've been doing this entire game. The fort, by the way, in the top right is already down to a quarter health. Zul got a lot of pushing there with the last couple waves, and it's starting to really show the reward they get for those consistent pushes.
Mr. Alex the Pro G tunnels on away there again. Could have almost crossed the paths of Muradin for a moment with Anubarak on his heels towards the mid, but that's another fort down, and that's another talent tier acquired here by Team Expert. And looks like Give Him the Axe been taken for Muradin, so not about the stuns for the moment. He's about doing big damage to those lovely slow targets by Jaina.
Yeah, Triple Warrior comps are very robust, so going for damage builds and CC is one of the best ways to deal with it. You just get in their face, try to out-damage them, because they will sustain through it. If he went for a stun build, eventually the tanks would break through if no one got bursted down by Jaina or Ragnaros. So the Give Him the Axe makes total sense here for Muradin, especially with him being an Avatar. He's tanky enough to help with the isolation, and that's good enough from there. Just get more damage.
And for Trick eSport now, they have to be careful because at level 16, Team Expert have acquired themselves Amplify Damage with Zul. So anybody that gets Bone Prison is going to be a focus. And for Zul, whenever he came out, when he came out, everyone was like, well, Bone Prism just basically puts a target on someone, and everyone knows, even if you're not on voice comms, to just target that person in the next few seconds. And with 25% extra damage, that can be very scary.
Yeah, it's one of the most obvious audio cues for you at home if you want to play in Hero League. If you pick up this talent, everyone knows, as Clarissa mentioned, get this guy. It's a large wind-up. You can get into position, and you can get that setup, and amplified damage helps a ton. Now, Trick eSports is doing a good job right now. They're just soaking to level 16. They kind of realize that going for a fight over the dragon might not work out to their benefit, so they're sitting back for a little bit, floating for a scenario, trying to get tabs on where their opponent's at. The problem is, Bad Benny is playing so well right now. He has been in the shadows this entire game, consistently hiding in bushes and being there and only showing up when he wants to go for a kill.
All right, so they're going to prioritize bottom lane here with the Dragon Knight, or even just going through the middle to give the Dragon Knight an option. So this wall is already down. Now they are looking to threaten keep. Trick eSports not level 16 just yet. They need that if they want to fight. They'll get a little bit from this minion wave, and it will pop eventually, but they need to buy a little bit of time before that does.
All right, the sieging begins. Blade moves his way to the bottom right. There is Odin popped here. Crosby going to start dealing damage to the backline. The AoE is dodged. Here comes Alex Aprochi on a flank, though. Nick trying to hide away from the dodge. At the same time, ADRD is taking damage in the front line. Purifier Vine does go out. Cleanse has been popped as well. Blizzard is dropped. ADRD does get the Ancestor healing. Blade keeping Odin out of the fight. Now they have it 5v4 with no major damage because Tychus is here. Burrow charge is forced to be used by Rimmerballer, and Dahaka does get focused.
And there was Molten Core as well. He was trying to lay down some damage on towards Napa on the right-hand side. Manages to get out of range of that Molten Core there.
The swap!
Yeah, that is going to be very, very nice there for a moment, but they can't follow up on anything. Rimmerballer is going to base, get some health himself. ADRD does not have Molten Core anymore to use on this keep location. I wonder if he could have saved it for that moment and then pushed up and maybe got some kills here, because everybody would have been in range for a long time, but Bad Benny just waiting on the edge of those roots and will move away.
Yeah, the team was waiting to see if Bad Benny could maybe hit another Stormbolt. Unfortunately, not working out, so they just pull away. If they hit the Stormbolt, they get a kill, and maybe they can pressure the keep. The problem is with this comp, something to note, is that they don't have an auto attacker, so killing cores are hard. Eternal, though, is going for the dive here. Shield Surge value should start proccing in. However, it's not enough. The Ring of Frost stops Tychus. He's standing still, and 2 members fall for Trick Esports.
Hashtag when our Tannis swaps go bad, because that one did not work out. As now Alex the Pro-G is going to be forfeit in towards the backline. That's 4 down. That's Team Expert taking this fight. Very well done.
And suddenly Trick Esports goes from a 3-tank comp to 0 tanks, as Crosby is the only one left here. And now, even though they don't have auto attackers, there's no one to help defend. All of Team Export moves onto the core and starts burning down this shield here. Can they take the game? Skeletal Mage is being popped up as well, dropping down 100%. Crosby trying his best to burn ADRD and doing a significant job, but it does not look like it will be enough. Team Expert takes game number 1 against Trick Esports.
Bad Benny with the B step there as well towards the end, looking for the good win there and looking for the psychological edge almost, trying to get into their opponent's head just a little bit in this elongated best of 5. It felt like there was a little bit of miscommunication on Trick Esports' side.
Yeah.
For example, when they were actually having to deal with that Dragon Knight towards bot lane and then trying to go in for the swaps, yes, there was a great swap on towards ADRD, but Nape's roots didn't follow up at just the right time to get that kind. If that kill had happened, that could have gone completely differently.
Yeah, it's a moment of timing at that point, because you have Artanis going in for the engage, and we know that Dahaka's about to be spawned again, and he has the Brush Stalker, and I'm sure they're yelling on communications, hey, I have Brush Stalker, this is our chance, we have to go in for a fight. They're level 19, we're 17, let's get this. But you have to wait a couple more seconds. Once Artanis is in the middle of a fight, he has no escape, and that's his weakness. If he's in a 5v1, goodbye Artanis. So that's what happened in that small scenario, and you can see why they went for it. Like, at that point, you're not coming back from the game unless you make a play, and it just didn't work out.
Let's take a look at some of the crucial moments of that game as well towards the later stages, because obviously this was just after the big swap, unfortunately for Eternal, had gone down, and some of the members had been just scattered. When you have a swap like that from Artanis just go awry, unfortunately, people like Dahaka and everything like that, even though they were 1 member down for a little bit of that, had to try and do something, and then able to roll on into victory.
That they did. So